When it comes to what kind of displays we use to play video games on, there are a lot of options, but generally if you're an enthusiast and also tend to play retro games, you'll probably steer towards one of two options. Either getting a CRT TV from back in the day and enjoying games the way they were intended to be played, or using a modern display, be it LCD or OLED, and use a scaler or line doubler. They have their pros and cons, and either option can get fairly pricey depending on your needs. CRTs take up a lot of room and they are very heavy. But also they're not being made anymore, and their health is swiftly declining, so finding a good one may take a lot of time and money. On the other end of the spectrum, using modern displays can be a cat and mouse game. You keep getting newer and better TVs with even more pixels, but you also have to hunt down a new scaler or line doubler that can drive that display, and if you're also planning on playing modern games on PC, you better have a beefy video card, or you'll have to resort to upscaling. I used to be part of both groups, using both a CRT and a modern display, but neither of these suited my needs quite well. So what if I told you I'm using a third option? Boring old HD Ready TVs. What do you even do with them nowadays? 1360 by 768 resolution? Not even 1080p? Sounds like old junk. Well, not quite. They can be not only useful but are pretty awesome in their own way and offer things you simply cannot do with modern displays, while saving you money as well. Let me explain. I have a 1440p monitor I've purchased about 3 years ago, and I also have a couple CRTs that have just gone unused for a while now because of my newfound appreciation of those old unloved 1360 by 768 LCD TVs and even lower resolution plasma screens. In fact, I absolutely hate my 1440p monitor now. Bought it with the idea that it's going to be great for retro games, and also 7th generation consoles with their mainly 720p output are gonna look great on it. Except it fails at almost everything it sets out to do. Its IPS display has bad motion blur, it has awful viewing angles and uneven backlighting, all for the sake of making it as thin as possible. When using my OSSC and RetroTink 2X clone on it with Bob the Interlacing, I managed to get several flickering things get stuck on its screen, which would only go away if I left the monitor turned off for a while. The user interface is also awful and annoying to use, not to mention that I couldn't even drive the monitor at native 1440p in every game, having to resort to upscaling. You might already be seeing where this is going. Once I went back to using my old LG LCD TV with its worn display that's falling apart and the VA panel's slight ghosting, it was so much nicer than that modern monitor. While I was still obviously using scalers and line doublers for retro consoles because the built-in analog inputs are not meant for retro gaming, the image looked so much better somehow. I like that it has much sharper scaling of 480p and 720p than that 1440p monitor. I also like that the pixels are fairly large and you can actually see the individual pixels as opposed to the 1440p monitor where they just blend together, giving you an ultra smooth image. Old games simply look better on it. Then last year I've obtained the Panasonic Plasma TV after searching for one for quite a long time, and it's my favorite TV I've ever owned. While the panel is a mere 1024 by 720, I've never seen such a great image with perfect colors and motion clarity. 7th generation 720p titles look amazing on it, and the 480p scaling is some absolute magic. I don't know what kind of scaler Panasonic used, but it's incredible. With my RetroTink 2X it kinda looks like a huge CRT, and it makes sense why. Input latency is also as low as 1.2 frames. These displays will not only cost a lot less since most people generally don't want them, but having great 480p upscaling to the native resolution of the panel also means that you don't need a high-end scaler or line doubler to have an amazing image. A RetroTink 2X clone will run you anywhere from $40 to $50. Of course I wouldn't just hook an analog console directly up to this TV, even if it has the right connections like RGB SCART or IPBPR, because most TVs will not handle them well. Oftentimes 240p will be misinterpreted as 480i, or even worse, you won't even get an image at all. But equipped with a cheap 2x line doubler, you're all set. And if you happen to have an OSSC, the 3x line tripled image at 720p looks incredible on these TVs. But that's not the only way they can save you money. For instance, if you're still playing modern games, especially on PC, running games at the native resolution of these TVs can not only look great, but maybe even better than having to use upscaling on a higher resolution monitor or TV. Why bother with FSR or DLSS when you can just run the game in its native resolution on an old TV? The PC I play on most of the times actually only has an RX 470, an almost 10-year-old GPU, and it still runs modern games, for the most part, just fine thanks to the lower resolution. And looking at the TV from around 2 meters away, I probably couldn't even tell the difference between it and 1080p or 1440p anyways. Actually, recently I just picked up another 1360 by 768 LCD with an uptime of only a little under 7,000 hours, still fresh, and only for $5. It's 32 inches just like my LG TV. I've been using it for about a month, watching movies, playing games, and it's probably a VA panel, as it has no issues with bob deinterlacing image retention. I used to think IPS is a better option, but I'm all for Team VA now when it comes to LCD. Not saying that these TVs are some kind of magic solution and the way to go, and that they are for everyone, but if they suit your needs, they can work great. Of course, you need to be wary of certain shiny-looking high-end LG and Samsung TVs from around 2008 to 2012, using heavy image processing and adding lag on every input. In fact, Darkside Phil has owned one of these high-lag TVs, and it definitely showed. What I've found is that more simple-looking, lower-end TVs tend to not have this issue, and I try to go for them instead. Sometimes you can even find them for free. Perhaps one of your family members just wants to get rid of one of these. Of course, never pay too much for these, as they are really not worth that much, and you have to know what you're getting into to really appreciate these TVs. I'm happy with them, and I don't think I'm missing out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.